we used to have bikes. My sisters had these Royce Union girl bikes. The girl bikes were awesome because if you remember, they have the top tube that kind of dips down and goes so you could easily be little like me and put your leg on that sucker and then grab the handlebars and try to ride it. Tanya says to my parents, I'm taking them to the track because this kid needs something. He needs an outlet and he loves this and we're going to go racing. And if you guys want to go, you're welcome, but we're out of here. Well, they didn't come. My sister was 17, I was 10. She had a red VW Bug and she stuffed my bike in the back of the car and we had like a football helmet and some shit and a long sleeve shirt. And we were off driving down the freeway to go to WSA. Okay. I'm 10 years old, going to my first race. I make the main. All I know is the gate dropped and we're going along. And the next thing I know, I'm all by myself. And I mean, I'm going into the first turn out front and there's nobody around. And I turn around and look and we had 10 people on the gate. 9 people were laying on the ground at the first jump. Everybody was crashed. I don't know the rules. I'm like, oh shit. So I hit my brakes, turn around. I'm riding down the first straight backwards. I get up to the pile of kids and in there, I see this dude at the bottom on his back. There's bikes on top of him, guys on top of him, and it's Tim, and he's like, you idiot, turn around and go, turn around and go. And I'm like, all right, so I turned around. Well, 2 people already got up. I got 3rd place. I would have won by like 50 miles.
Meet the Guest, next chapter, part of the Coach Robb Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Coach Robb Podcast Network. Another episode of Meet the Guest, next chapter. I am extremely excited to talk with our guest today, Mr. Greg Hill. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm well, man. How you doing, man? Thank you for having me.
I literally have goosebumps, and I don't want to, I say that sincerely, but I want to share with you why the subscribers and listeners are not even aware of this.
Right.
I contribute what I do today as a living. I go all the way back to you and the book that you put out, Training for BMX.
Oh,
and everybody who knows you and I's age bracket and when we grew up and what we did, today's kids don't know what a card catalog is. They don't know what it means to actually, take a book out and you go to the library. And I remember just scouring over every library I could go to. I wanted to find out about strength training and nutrition, and there was nothing in the library. If you found it, it was pretty anemic. There wasn't a lot of meat on the bone.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and I don't want to get too far over the front of our skis here on the timelines, but to this day, you inspired me. I wanted to know so much about physiology. You came out with that book. I read that thing forwards and backwards. I teased you when we first talked. I read it more than the Playboys I found on the side of the rail. You know what I mean? Seriously, it was the coolest thing, teaching how to jump, how to do starts, how to build a starting gate. And then you fast forward and I go off to college. Actually the last time I got to see you in person was at the IBMXF Worlds here in Orlando in 87. And here we are now. We loop back around a few sunsets later. But I want to publicly and personally say thank you because you inspired me to learn more about physiology when it didn't exist. And,
I appreciate it.
You had no idea.
I appreciate that. I've got a few of those copies left up there in my bookshelf. And I think my journey onto the whole physiology and working out and that was driven simply by the desire to win. Like people will say, hey, what did you like more? It's like winning more than you hated losing. And it's like, I never thought about losing. It was not in my brain. It was all about trying to win. And then if you want to try to win, then what do you got to do? I must have watched the original Rocky movie like 500 times, man. And it was like raw. It's raw. It's like, anyways, we could go on about this, but yeah, it was an awesome time, so yeah.
100%. And I recorded I did an intro going through all your credentials and all the different achievements and the accolades. And when the listeners hear all of that, if you're not familiar with Greg Hill, and you listen to that intro, you get a better idea of why I had such utmost respect for Greg. Like I said, growing up, I shared with you, Greg, when we spoke a couple weeks ago, I still remember Waterford Oaks. I literally, to this day, I can smell the grass at Waterford Oaks when they had the ESPN series. I'd never been to Waterford Oaks, Michigan before.
Right.
You up there with the Patterson brothers and Eddie and Harry, and just, that gate was the best of the best and
Yeah, that was that was awesome.
unbelievable. But when we look back at it and we come back around full circle, right? I've been very fortunate. We had Big E. He's been on the show before.
He's great, man. I love that guy.
It's such a sincere guy. We had Connor Fields on,
Yeah,
and him talking about him not being able to defend his gold medal and in the trials and tribulations.
for sure.
And I really appreciated you being willing to come on the show, because the one thing that I always enjoy listening to somebody that achieved such high levels that you did, not only achieve it, but sustain it for so many years. Like I said in the intro, over 300 national wins, and I don't know how many magazine covers that you were on. You might have an exact number, maybe you don't. That may not be important to you, but the coolness of the covers, the one that I have, and I'm not going to move the camera and embarrass you, but I have the one when you were on the cover of BMX Action, BMXA,
Right.
and you'd started your GHP company, Greg Hill Products.
Yeah.
You got the orange open face helmet with the orange Oakleys, and
Yeah.
you're squatted down, and it's just, even though you're wearing the goggles and the Oakley mask, you could just see the in the picture.
Can I just expand on the magic of those times? I'll be fast.
Oh, please do. Our listeners would love it.
This is a time. So, like, sometimes people ask me, or they think that I don't like BMX because I got out of it and I shut GHP down. And it's not that I don't like BMX. It's just BMX today and BMX how I grew up is way different. Today, if you get onto a cover of any kind of social, any kind of media stuff, it's just a picture that was taken. You're not usually going into the studio. That photo was like, I believe that was the third Nora Cup in a row I won. And Bob Osborne called me and he says, "Hey, you won again, and we need you to come down here to the studio." So that's how it went. And it was like, we're going to shoot a picture and this is a cover photo. So you need to come down. I get down there and, Bob and Wendy and Steve Giberson, and, they had a lot of good guys that were working there. They're like, "Here's what we want." We got the little fire extinguisher. They got all this stuff. And, I don't remember if that was the third one. Maybe that was the second one. I can't remember. But there was 2 times. But it was just, we want you to put your uniform on and get out there in front of the camera. And then it's like, "Hey, yo, do this. Hey, okay. Oh, that's perfect." And, you got Bob shooting, and you got Wendy, and you got Steve, and they're just saying stuff. And, this stuff all happened organically. It wasn't, "Man, I hope I get a photo shot," or "I hope I get a cover shot." Most covers just, they took a good photo, they made it to cover. But many times you would go in, and, for instance, I get ragged on a lot. There's a photo where I might want to say this would have been the third one, is where I'm wearing like some bullets and I don't have a shirt and I have a gun. Well, it was the same one. I think that was the third one, because what happened was Bob called me and says, "Hey, we need you to come down. You won it 3 times in a row. We got to do something." Well, I get down there and Wendy's like, "All right, take your shirt off." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" She's like, "This is what we're doing." She pulls out this thing. It's all bullets, the little, whatever, you put it around your chest.
Yeah.
Gun. It's not loaded. Don't worry. We rented it. She's got the squirt bottle out. She's got the dry ice is going. She's like, "All right, get out there." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." Like, no matter how cool that we might think this is right now, forever, I'm going to get bagged on. To this day, friends of mine will text me that photo and say something stupid. I laugh, but again, it was organic times, they were not like social media. A lot of us, a lot of adult people that have grown up in the sport, and later in years, they type onto a thread or they tell me, "Hey, man, we used to wait 30 days for the mailman to get here." Well, you check this out. So did I.
That's right.
I waited. I couldn't wait for the next BMXA to show up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that, but we're lucky
It,
that we got to experience that.
I don't think the young kids, and this is, I don't want to keep reiterating this comment and making ourselves sound old or like we're jaded, but kids don't understand that, like, to get, no disrespect to BMX Plus, right? But it just wasn't the same as BMXA.
It was a great
But you
magazine, just not the same.
No, but you subscribed to it because you just wanted content. You wanted, and I love what you just said, because I never achieved a tenth of what you were able to achieve. But boy, every time that magazine would come out, or come in the mail rather, and you'd say, "Oh, Pittsburgh wore the stars. Let's see if I made a photo."
Yeah.
And you'll love this, Greg. There's a picture. I remember when we would race Orlando on Saturday and then we'd race Sarasota on Sunday, right? People don't understand that to save their life, but that's a different story.
That was a great time.
I get to Sarasota and people are saying to me, I'm walking, I'm from Orlando, so I'm at Sarasota, so I know people, and people walk up to me and Greg, they go, "Hey, Rob, how are your brakes doing?" And I'm like, my brakes are doing good. What's going on? But it didn't happen once. I must have had 50 people come by, kind of nub me. "Hey man, how are your brakes doing?" I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" Well, BMX Action did a bike maintenance article, and they had a picture of me, a half a wheel behind Doug Davis coming into the corner. My number is 41B. Nobody knows me from Adam. Here's Doug Davis with his 35th number one plate at 15 years old, right? And the article was, maybe I'm not beating Doug because my brakes are dragging. But I made the magazine, I'm like, I'll take any. And to your point, now I don't have bullets on me, and I'm not getting sprints down by Wendy and Gork and all those guys, but I was in that magazine and I have it to this day. And like you said, and to think that we had to wait another 30 days, and you think about, I don't want to use the word control because it could be taken out of context, but whether you were in that magazine or not had a lot to do, obviously, with performance.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, you had to deal with politics a little bit. If GT is spending a lot of money advertising, pretty good chance we're going to see GT riders in there. Same with Diamondback, right? But that's okay. That's just the business world that we're in. But isn't it interesting that Greg Hill on the cover had to wait, just like the rest of us, to wait for that magazine to come in, and how excited you were.
You're not getting a copy of that,
Yeah.
When the magazine closed down, which sucks, but when it closed down, like when Bob walked away, I remember, I don't know how it wound up happening, but I met up with him and he gave me a big folder and it had a lot of, I don't know what the proper name is. They were like the side, they were like, were they negatives? Were they multi-layered, which you see different colors? And so
Sounds right.
gave me a lot of those.
Okay.
And yeah, it was cool. I mean, I always feel it this way. I don't know. I just, this is just me. People will say, "Wow, man, you're this, you're that." And I'm like, check, it's not like I'm nothing without the fan, and I'm nothing without the magazine, the publication. Like these things all work together in unison. You don't become a high profile rider without a publication or without the fan base. So basically, here we are 45 years later, we're all connected to this thing,
Yep.
So it's cool. And I don't, as life goes on and as the story changes and how technology and everything changes, I'm not saying that what we had was better than what today's kids have. It was just different. And because it's coming on for us, it's grown in our minds. It's something that we all hold on to. It doesn't mean it's better than today, but I'm just glad that I was from that era. I'm really glad.
I'm forever grateful that there was yourself and the Patterson brothers and the Anderson brothers, because those are those fond memories that to this day, like you talked about Rocky. It's funny you mentioned that. I that is my most motivating to this day, when she screams, "You can't do it," and he just looks at her. And the scene where the Russian versus him, and he's in a barn and the Russian's getting all the highest, latest, and greatest. It was just
great, man.
it's so authentic.
Absolutely.
You bring up a really good point when you think about those magazines. And again, I don't shy away from making money. I love capitalism. You run your own successful business, and you have for years. What I think is so cool is think about how grateful Bob and Wendy and Gork and everybody at BMXA were because you were the one that sold subscriptions. So yes, they made you popular, if you want to say that, because they highlighted your results, whether it was on the cover or in the magazine. It's always fascinating when you go back, you look at the old magazines. I still have a lot of mine, and you look through and there's Greg advertising for Dicomp, and then all of a sudden he's over there for Tioga tires. Then you're in Aero gear, and then you're in your own GHP gear, and then you're in JT gear, and then you're in Aero gear, back and forth, and you're riding for GT, and then you're riding for Robinson, and you had your own GHP.
Yeah.
All of those different companies made money on Greg Hill because of the results that you produced, but without a magazine, there was no need for them to advertise. If they didn't advertise, Gork doesn't make money. Bob doesn't make money. If the magazine doesn't make money, there's no need for you. If there's you in it, I'm not subscribing. It was such a simple model.
Absolutely. For sure.
Such a simple model. And we all wanted, the old rising tide raises all boats. We were all interested in doing that.
Everybody benefits. Yeah. Right.
Yep, absolutely. And I love competition. I don't have any desire to get into politics because I want to talk about Greg Hill, not politics. But when you had NBL on the East Coast and you had ABA on the West Coast, competition, it increased the quality and the output. And that's just the beauty of competition at that point. Right. And then me being an East Coast guy, I remember when Turnell was kind enough to put me on the KHS team, and that's when Azusa was still there. And we went out for a photo shoot. We went out on a Wednesday night, and I got served by every local dude at Azusa. Dudes were in jeans, and we had to wear long sleeve shirts, but they were wearing flannel long sleeve shirts like Todd Corbett, right? He made those things cool.
For you back then.
Absolutely.
On that track, you were screwed.
Oh, and remember how so fast and into that downhill right-hander, and then you had the bridge. Yeah. And I remember I'm thinking, okay, I think I'm doing okay. I'm getting some support from Tooney at KHS. And I go on a Wednesday night and I look like an absolute squid. And I was like, man, this is what I love about the difference between West Coast and East Coast. And remember the ABA, you didn't have to have the mouth guard, which was just a novelty that you could be on the gate without having to put your Jofa on. And then you go and you get your tail end served to you on a silver platter and you realize, dude, West Coast is real deals. And then you guys would come east, and then here you are, and it's East Coast versus West Coast, NBL against ABA, and it was raising everybody's bar. Absolutely. To this day, here locally, my local group, the people that I raced against, Todd Corbett was 1 year below us. Yeah, my group was Mike Wiggins, and then you look at the pro, you had the Greg Lanthorns of the world, you had Steve Aglios, you had those. Eric Bartolos was here coming over, from down south, and then all of a sudden we'd have a state race, and now you got Ronnie Walker in there, and then you've got Termite, you've got all these bad to the bone dudes. You look at that, Tony Shinaka and all these guys here locally. My point being is those are the guys that got you out of bed.
Absolutely.
I think of that ESPN series. You could go Stu, you could go Patterson Brothers, you could go the whole Diamondback team with Harry, and those are the guys that made Greg go out there and lift those weights. And again, I'm forever thankful the book that you put together when you shared, what the heck do we do? And I love the weights. They're the big plastic ones, they're filled with dirt. There's Greg, barely enough to get his hands in there. But
there you go. Yeah.
Now, with you being so dominant, I have to ask, how did you even get involved into BMX? And what part of California? I'm assuming California. Yeah. Where did your roots get started?
Basically, when I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters. I'm 61. Now I'm going to get in trouble because I don't know the exact.
I understand.
Next sister up is probably 64, 65 in that. And then my other sister's 67, I think. So I was the youngest. And what happened is at three, I don't know, 3 years, how many months, I don't know. But we used to have bikes. My sisters had these Royce Union girl bikes. The girl bikes were awesome because if you remember, they have the top tube that kind of dips down and goes so you could easily be little like me and put your leg on that sucker and then grab the handlebars and try to ride it. So the whole bike thing for me started where I figured out how to get on one of their bikes. I don't know. I'm not telling you this as if I remember the exact, but I was out I got the bike out in the street, in the gutter, where I could get my foot up on the curb and then I could get on it and then I could just start going. I didn't have a clue how to stop. I didn't care. I just wanted to get going. And the next thing I know, I was just riding all over the place. And that kind of evolved to where 5 years old, start school. I was riding my bike every day. And when I got to be like 8 years old, probably eight, and it was different times, I'm 8 years old. I'm riding all around the neighborhood. Like I'm nowhere near my house. Right. And I'm hanging out with dudes that are like, if I'm 8, there's dudes that are like 10, 11, 12. The difference between an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old is like 50 years. When if I'm 61 and you're 58, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
But if we go back to when we were like 8 and 11, that's a massive. So I was rolling with these guys in our neighborhood, and they all rode, and they were really good on their bikes. And when I say good, I mean, there was a guy named Mike Miller that he was kind of like, I'll call him the leader of the group that I used to roll, and they used to be cool enough to let me hang around. This guy was great. On a bicycle, he was unbelievable. I've seen the best BMX riders in the world, and I've raced some of the best over the years. If this guy would have found BMX racing, he would have been a champion, but he never did. But I got to a point where at 10 years old, I had a buddy in school, and his name was Tim Gallego. He used to live, if my house was here and the school was a mile away, and he was on the other side of school. So we would meet up and we would ride all the time. Well, I didn't realize he raced. So he's like, hey, I want you to come watch. Just come check it out. Don't worry about racing right now. We want to take you. So they took me to this place called Western Sportsorama. Well, Tim, and he was my age, and his mom, she wasn't married or she was divorced or whatever, but her boyfriend was a guy named Chuck Robinson, right? The Chuck Robinson. So
Wow.
I went to go watch, and then I'm like, this is amazing, man. I got to do this. And just had a great time. Came back home, told my parents about it. My parents, they were like, oh, that's cool. That's great. We just have to find time. They never took me. So for like week after week, they never took me. So then I went to my first actual race, and I went again with Tim. And I went to this place called Escape Country.
And how old are you at this point, Greg?
I'm 10 years old.
Okay.
I'm 10 years old, going to my first race. I make the main. All I know is the gate dropped, and we're going along. And the next thing I know, I'm all by myself. And I mean, I'm going into the first turn out front, and there's nobody around. And I turn around and look, and we had 10 people on the gate. 9 people were laying on the ground at the first jump. They didn't have, there was no rules back then. I mean, yeah, there's some rules, but
yeah,
it wasn't, 3 riders went down before the first. No, dude, it's you. Everybody crashed, and we're rolling. So everybody was crashed. I don't know the rules. I'm like, oh shit. So I hit my brakes, turn around. I'm riding down the first straight backwards. I get up to the pile of kids, and in there, I see this dude at the bottom on his back. There's bikes on top of him, guys on top of him, and it's Tim, and he's like, you idiot, turn around and go, turn around and go. And I'm like, all right. So I turned around. Well, 2 people already got up. I got 3rd place. I would have won by like 50 miles, but I got 3rd place, and I was hooked. What I remember that really made me want to be, it just made a huge, massive impression on me, is that back then they used to do the time. They would time the laps. So they had a track record, okay? And Brian Lewis, the guy was on the first BMX Action cover, right?
Yep.
He held the track record. And so, I'm watching, after our races, I'm racing 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
11, 12. And they get the final race of the day was like 14 and over. And John George come from the Valley. And John George was, he's an early NBA rider.
Okay.
He's one of the best early day guys. He was super fast. And anyway, I watched their final, and he won. And then the announcer says, oh, we have a new track record. John George has beaten Brian Lewis' record by 5 seconds. And I mean, I watched that and I was like, this guy's hauling, man. It really made an impression on me. And then still my parents didn't come out, right? So I come home from the races, had a great time. My older sister Tanya is like, well, we got to get you to the track. So here's the deal. I I have a big opinion on this, but I'll leave that over here. I had uh you know, ADD, okay? I don't know how it morphed into ADHD, whatever, but I had ADD. Um, I found school to be completely boring. I was not into watch Jane play with Spot and like I just it was boring to me. So
Sure.
I wound up getting into fights every single day. And I don't mean like once in a while I would fight. I'm not exaggerating. Like my neighborhood I grew up in Santa Ana, okay?
Okay.
It's a pretty hard neighborhood. The street that I lived on right behind us was the start of like a pretty hardcore gang area called the F Troop. They were pretty badass people. I mean, yeah. I had to get from my house to school, and all these dudes would be going to school, okay? And I would be like, people would come up to me, and 3 people, 4 people, and they push me, hit me, this and that. I'd come home with a fat lip, this and that. Well, my uncle, I'm trying to get this condensed, but I'm not trying to make this a big long story.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I love
My
it.
dad's brother was a couple years older than my dad. His name was Richard, so Uncle Richard. And this dude was, let me punch you in the face first, and then we can talk about this. That's his whole deal. So he finds out that I'm getting picked on, and he says, listen, good. And he takes me out and he talks to me and he goes, look, no more talking. No more when people approach you, you don't try to get out of it. You just go for it. And what I want you to do is I want you to identify the biggest person that you can see in that group. And I want you to just start pounding on them.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, I got this. I'll do that. So, yeah, that's what I did. I mean, the next time I was approached, there was this, I don't know, 4 or 5 dudes, and I just looked, where's the biggest guy? And I just got on him and I just went ape shit, man. I mean, I was hyperactive. I, I didn't know what to be afraid. I'm not trying to be macho. I'm not. I'm very
No.
humane, very humble,
Yeah.
I didn't have no fear, dude. I don't
Yeah.
give a crap who it was. So I'm just
Yeah.
pounding. There's 2 things that are going to happen. Either you're going to actually beat somebody's head in, or it might be kind of a back and forth, and they just think you're crazy because you don't have fear, and they just back away. Other people back away. So it's like, all right, this works.
Yeah.
So I started to do that. And so as I'm going to my first races, I go to escape country. I'm getting in trouble on the weekly. I went to 3 different elementary schools because I got kicked out for fighting.
For fighting.
So my sister Tanya says to my parents, I'm taking him to the track because this kid needs something. He needs an outlet and he loves this, and we're going to go racing. And if you guys want to go, you're welcome, but we're out of here. Well, they didn't come. My sister was 17. I was 10. She had a red VW Bug, and she stuffed my bike in the back of the car, and we had like a football helmet and some shit and a long sleeve shirt. And we were off driving down the freeway to go to WSA. Okay.
So
Western Sports Arena. We get signed up. I'm going to tell you what, man, the best thing in my whole career that ever happened was that my sister saw this dude who had like a chicken on the top of his helmet. Okay. And he was like one of the big dudes, right? His name was Stu Thompson. And she just couldn't stop talking about him.
Oh boy.
I'm 10 years old. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Certainly.
All I know now is that after we went once and twice, then it's like, dude, she's wanting to go to the track every day of the week. Well, they're not racing every day of the week, but if they were, she'd be taking me, right? So it wasn't too long after that, they were hanging out. It was like, hey, this is cool because the only place she can see him right now is at the track. So she's got to go to the track, and I get to ride.
Absolutely.
So, it worked out. They've been married for like, I don't know, 45 years or something now. And And then Stu and I had an unbelievable career together, battling, killing each other on the track. And
Literally. Yep.
so, yeah, that was cool. But that's how it went. And well, as things worked out, my dad and my mom finally went, watched. And again, I'm too young to understand this stuff. I don't know what the details were, but they went from can't go to the track to the next thing I know, my mom's running signups. My dad's running the pro shop. My uncle Richard is announcing. And I'm like, you still can't watch me. You're too busy. My mom was to me early on. She says, my mom and dad are both passed, right? My mom passed like 30 years ago. My dad passed like 5 years ago. And,
Nice.
God bless him.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah.
My mom says early on, she says, son, listen, you can't just beat somebody by, 6 inches. If you beat someone by 6 inches, I can't give it to you.
Mm.
What are you talking about? Like, are you
Wow.
serious? She's like, yeah, I'm totally serious, because if it's a close race and I give it to you, they're going to think it's favoritism.
Mm.
Every step along the way, I kept getting kicked in the nuts. Okay. On like, wow, you're not making it easy for me. Now I gotta watch Rocky one more time, and I gotta do more push-ups and more sit-ups, and I gotta do more of this and more of that, because I clearly have to win by 10 bike lengths in order to be able to say I won, because I can't just go out and win, right? So it was cool. That was kind of the early start of it, My dad became partners with the track owner, and then my dad decided, hey, you know what? There's a bike shop here. Let's turn it into a pro shop. The next thing I know, we're standing in Gary Turner's garage in Santa Ana. He's got a frame and a jig, and Gary was just making a couple frames at a time. And they made a special frame, and I was riding it, and then we had the pedals ready GT Pro Shop, and so we had like Ronnie Ames and myself and a bunch of people, and yeah, and that's kind of how it got all going,
So you were 10 when your sister met Stu?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is where again, thank you for sharing that story, because obviously I had never heard that before, but what
Yeah.
it does bring into perspective, and I shared this with you when you and I spoke.
Right.
I don't know why it's so seared in my brain. Waterford Oaks, round 1, you cross the finish line, you don't even stop. You keep going past the finish line,
Yeah.
you whip your helmet off, you throw it on your bars, you're having a conversation with yourself. Now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
This is the kid that got his head beat in. He had to punch the biggest dude in the group. He's a scrapper. Now it makes more sense, because I had no idea that was your background.
I mean, that's my background. And then I happened to wind up, growing into the sport. Well, Stu is a super big, everyone knows Stu's a big dude. Okay.
Mhm.
What people maybe don't know is that Stu's super passive. Okay. He's a pretty, level dude. Okay. Like, you really got to piss him off. Okay. But then if you do piss him off, then you better get the hell out, but he doesn't have, when you're growing up and you're the biggest dude around, you probably don't get picked on too much. So you're not getting tested. I'm like one of the smaller guys around. And then, by the time I turned, by the time, let's just say when 81 rolls around and I find my way on GT, and I'm at the Silver Dome in 81, and it was just a magic time.
Yeah.
I was 5'9", 160 pounds. And what would happen is, like, early in my career, I wasn't out to fight anybody. Okay. But the point is that, dude, if you run me off the track and if you cut me off out of the gate, like on purpose, and I know if you did it on purpose, okay,
Yep.
dude, I'm going to smash you. And that's it. Because I'm not going to just let you do that. Because
Right.
Uncle Richard's over here saying, yo, if they get to do it once, they're going to do it all the time. If you let him,
He's announcing
that. What's that?
And he's announcing, so he can call you out on the announcer.
He only announced for a short period of time.
Oh, okay.
You
just couldn't get away from it.
I would go back as a 10-year-old and I can be like, okay, I remember those words. So I've had times like, I had a time once where we were in Memphis, Tennessee, racing NBL National. Might have been 83 or something. Going into the third main, I got 2 points. Okay. I won the first 2 mains.
Sitting pretty.
I'm sitting great. I'm going to the second turn. I'm in like second or third. And it's like, yo, I just got to go like 2 more turns and we're loving life.
Yep.
Dude, the biggest guy in our class at the time was a guy named Sean Texas. Well, he
Oh, yeah.
inside,
Oh, boy.
and I mean, he shoves his way in there. Okay. And in Memphis, it was an indoor. So the second turn, I don't know if my hand can show it went up and it was really high. It was a really high, tall burn.
Okay.
The guy runs me all the way over the turn and I get 8th. And now I got a 118 and I'm getting second or third overall. And I was so pissed I didn't have control of my emotions. And I went up to him. He was sitting at the finish in front of everyone. This guy was massive. If people don't know who Sean Texas was, just
Look him up.
You'll see.
Look him up. He's
Dude,
Hercules.
He's sitting on his bike and he's got the one leg down and the other leg on the pedal. So all his weight's on that leg, right? So if you just imagine, a football game, it's, 2 seconds to go. The guy's going to kick a field goal. The way that the guy would kick the field goal is the same exact way. I walked up to him and I kicked his foot out from under him. I kicked the foot that was holding him up so hard that he instantly wound up on his back and he was on the ground. And I said, I'm going to beat your ass. I can't believe you did that. And he got up and he goes, and he looked at me and I said, dude, step into it. And I started to go at him and he goes, you're crazy. And I'm like, you don't know the half of it. And he got on his bike and, he rode out the building through the doorway. I rode behind him. I sprinted. We must have sprinted, I don't know, for 2 or 3 minutes. We were way out and I couldn't catch him. I couldn't find him. I don't know where he was. And wow. The next time I seen him, I said, hey, just remember what you did. And just remember, I don't give a shit how big you are because it doesn't matter. Because
that's clear.
You out, dude.
Yeah, that is clear. Anybody who knows Sean, I don't think there's a single listener that would think, oh yeah, I think I'm just going to go kick Sean's leg out from underneath him and then chase him down the road.
I just don't care. Like, my wife thinks I'm crazy because I don't care. Like, if I believe in something, that overrides any worry I have. If I believe in something and I have passion, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care what you have to do. Doesn't matter to me. That guy, he might beat your ass up. I don't care. That doesn't register. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean I'm going to have a fat lip, but I'm going to beat his ass? He's going to walk away knowing he don't want none of this no more.
I love that.
We used to, I know when people are listening to this, if they don't know me, they're going to think, oh, this guy's an ego trip or this and that.
Oh, don't worry about it.
I went to 3 elementary schools. I got kicked out of my chair. I asked my 2nd grade teacher one time, hey, I got to go to the restroom badly. I got to go. She goes, go in your chair. So I peed my pants in my chair. I'm like, I'm not going to think about like, I need to do this and I'm either going to the bathroom or I'm going here. What do you want? Like, I didn't worry about consequences,
Yeah.
Like, basically it was one of them deals where this is the best way to put it. I was in 9th grade. I was making pretty good money. I went and bought a brand new Toyota 4x4 single cab, truck, driving it to school. Maybe I was in 10th grade. I'm driving home and I turn onto my street. Well, here we got F Troop guys, right? This guy, I'll never forget, his name is Joe Green. He was like, compare me to like Sean Texas in size.
Okay.
He was they were walking and they don't walk on the sidewalk. They were walking down the middle of the street and they were taking up the whole street. And he was he was the last person. So I would have been going next to him. So I slowly went around and I purposely went close enough to clip his hand. So I clipped his left hand as I went around him. Then I sped up about 20 feet, parked, got out, and stepped in front of him and said, dude, I don't know what you think, but this is my street, okay? This is not your street. And the next time I'm going to run your ass over. Don't walk down my street, ever. And they're in shock because, there was 7 or 8 dudes. Could they have thrashed me? Probably so. But they think I'm psycho. And they didn't cruise our street anymore.
Wow.
That's just
there you go.
how I grew up. My youngest is Jeremy. He's 28 years old. And when he was in second grade, that he would come home. So I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but
You're not. No,
he
you're,
would come
the
home.
listeners are loving it, man.
Dude, he would come home. He would be crying. He would be in tears, man. And I'm like, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah.
The kid keeps punching me and he's hitting me. And I'm telling the yard lady and she's doing nothing. I told him, listen, this is what you're going to do. Okay. Promise me you're going to do this.
Uncle Richard's coming out.
That's right.
Yeah.
I said, make me a promise. He goes, okay, what? I go, and the next time that kid punches you, kicks you, whatever he does, I want you to kick him in his mouth. However you got to do it. Just do it.
Yep.
You got to stand up for yourself. No one else in this world is going to do that for you.
Amen. Amen.
Hey, I believe in God, man. I believe in Christ. I'm a Christian, all right? And I know some people might think, oh, this is hypocrite. No, you know what? You stand up for yourself.
That's right.
People pick on you, okay? Well, turn the other cheek. You can turn it so many times. I'm not perfect, so I'm okay with not being perfect.
But you're also not starting it. That's the key right there, but you will finish it.
That's right. The next day, you get a phone call like, hello, Mr. Hill, we need you to come down to the office. Okay, no problem.
You're right there.
I'm thinking, dude, he did it. He hooked it up. So I get down in the office, and I'll never forget this. I'm sitting there, and the principal, is like, well, Mr. Hill, we had a situation with your son. And I said, what happened? I said, no, I'm not asking you what happened. I don't want you to talk right now. I'm going to ask my son what happened. What happened, Jeremy?
Nice.
Well, you remember you told me next time that kid kicks me or punches me to kick him in the mouth? I was out on the field and I recessed and this kid was doing the same thing. And I was yelling at the yard lady and she wouldn't come over and she wouldn't acknowledge. And then he kicked me again and I turned around and kicked him in the mouth. And I said, that a boy. Gave him 5. I said, good job. I said, now what did you want to say? What's your problem with this? Well, you just can't do that. You can't do these things that these are not allowed. And I said, well, what's not allowed is for you to have a walking zombie on the yard when the kids are on recess that isn't watching what's going on. So as they're going to do their job, my son's going to stand up for himself. If that means he can't go to this school, let me know now and we'll find a better school for him to go to. Because he's not coming to school to get beat up on every day. He's coming to school to learn.
That's right.
And the guy was just like, well, this will be a warning and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, your warning is falling on deaf ears. My son's coming here. We're paying $600 a month, every month for him to attend this school. And if he can come learn and have a good experience, we're here. If he can't, I said, I'll tell you what, the next time that my son gets picked on and comes home crying, you don't have to call me. Because I'm going to come and sit in your office. I'm going to walk in and I'm going to shut your door and I'm going to make you feel like my son feels when he's getting picked on. How's that for you? And he was like, well, Mr. Hill. And I'm like, you know what? We're done here. I'll see you again if this happens. I hope it doesn't. And then we left. But it's like, you got to stand up for yourself, man.
Absolutely. And I love this. And I know the listeners will as well. This sheds such incredible insight into Greg the racer that we all know.
Yeah.
Because when I go back and I think back, and my goodness, I think of all the teams that you've ridden for and the accomplishments that you've had, including your own race team.
Yeah.
Now it makes a lot more sense. The no BS, take nothing from no one,
right.
Like you say, not afraid of anybody.
It's a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. And there's people that would say, hey, you don't have to be that way. Listen, I agree. Okay. But what I really believe in life, in this life, is that every one of us are basically, we become the world we grew up in. Okay. I've made this point a few times. One of my best friends, Gary Ellis, he's one of the best racers ever. Okay.
Such a good guy.
The dude, he's the guy where every once in a while my phone will go off and I'll look and it's like a middle finger emoji and it's just a laughing day. And I'd so see that. I'll do the same thing to him. But like, we've had conversations like when I was on Robinson, he was on GT, and we would go and rent the car together and share a room. And, we used to have like what we call the discussion nationals. You're in the hotel room, you're each in your bed, lights are out, and you're just talking until you
just talking. Yeah.
he grew up in a different world than I did. The guy I have so much respect for because he found BMX, he loved it, and he excelled at it. He didn't grow up fighting every day. Every kid has some issues. I get that. He
Certainly.
grow up in that whole environment of like I did, you know.
Yeah.
This guy just went out and won because he wanted to win. I went out and won. I wanted to win, but I had like this different energy, you know. I find like it's really impressive when a guy isn't going out there to prove anything. He's just going out because he loves it and he still wins, you know. That's cool.
100%. When you were 10 years old, how old was Stu at that time when he met your sister?
I think Stu was 17 or 16 because right now, depending on what time of the year is, he already had his birthday, so he might be 67 now. I'm 61. I think he's like 6 years older than I am. Him and my sister were pretty close in age, actually.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So here you are, your sister and he have obviously caught eyes. How old were you the first time you straight up beat him?
It's hard for me to remember this because I don't, we went from him just thinking, oh, that's, my girlfriend's little brother, blah, 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 to I turned pro at 14 and I started racing. I'll tell you when he fully knew who I was.
Okay.
He knew me. I'm just saying this as a,
Certainly.
I love
as a racer.
I love Stu. He's my big brother. And, I love the guy. And it's just it. So we were in Bakersfield in 1977 and we were racing an NBA national and they used to have trophy dashes. And the whole thing where before the NBA was around for a short window of time. In the last couple of years, they had a pro title. Maybe it was just the last year, but their big title would always be their national #1 plate, right?
Okay.
The NBA national champion. Well, so Stu was battling with Brent Patterson for that in 77. Stu won it in 77 and 78. I won it in 79. But in 77, we were in Bakersfield at this national, and it was the trophy dash. And they took the 13, 14, 15, 16 and over, the pro. The winners raced one final lap.
Okay.
That lap, if you won, you were the trophy dash champion for that race. Well, if you wanted to be the national champion of the NBA, you had to win trophy dashes. It was 400 points for first, 200 for second. You got points for winning your class, but nothing close to what you would get for winning the trophy dash. Okay.
Wow.
So there's a photo. I'll find it for you and I'll text it to you. There's a photo. We were both on SE. Okay. I was 13 years old and we're going into the first turn in this trophy dash. I'm in front. Okay. And Stu's a couple inches behind me. It's a left-hand turn.
Yeah.
I got my leg out. We're just going. John George is behind us, Scott Clark, other, big name guys.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And we came out of the turn and I was in first place. And I don't know why I did this. It's so stupid. But as we came out of the turn, we exited and I pulled over and just slowed down and let everybody go. And I'm telling you, it wasn't because I was afraid to win. It wasn't because, I don't want to get past. All I know as a 13-year-old kid was, man, my brother's up for a title. And if he wins, it's big. And if I beat him, it could screw him up. And I pulled over. I didn't think this. It was just an awareness. It was a knowing.
Yeah.
I just pulled over and they all went by. That's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And to this day, I don't remember what happened afterwards. I don't remember if my dad came to me and said, what the hell are you doing? Or I don't remember any of it,
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure at that point in time, he knew I would be someone he had to contend with down the line,
Because you're sitting at 13, that puts him roughly 18, 19-ish.
Yeah, he would have been 19 and a half, pushing 20. Yeah.
And here you are at 13 going on 14 and you're leading them.
When I was 14 years old, I was winning nationals and yeah, he was winning too. but I was winning nationals and pro races. I would race 14X and get first, and race pro and get first, because you could race your amateur and your pro. For a couple of years, they let you do that. Then they separated. If you're pro, you're pro. But for the first couple of years, you could race your class and you could race the pro class. So
What year would that have been, Greg? That you could do both?
1978. In 1978, I was 14. 79, I was 14, 15.
Okay.
I'm riding for Red Line. So yeah, we battled hard, and along with everyone else, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, my whole attitude every time I got on the line was I wanted to win, and you know, I didn't like to get jacked around. So if you know, I'm just always, even today, you know, I became really good buddies with Billy Griggs. You've heard of Billy Griggs, I'm sure.
I love Bill. Mr.
He's
Bill,
a good dude, man. If he's listening to you,
awesome dude.
Mr. Bill, I love you, man. The thing is, so Billy and I, we battled, me, Billy, and Gary Ellis battled in 1988 for the NBL Pro title, which I was fortunate enough to win, but we battled hard. And so, and Billy was on Redline as an amateur when I was on Redline the last time. So we got to know each other really well. And what I really like about him was that, man, if somebody screwed him over, dude, he was like, okay, I got to get even. This guy has change coming. I got to give it to him. And he wouldn't wait. It would be next moto. It would be the next national in practice. It would be as soon as possible. He's got to go. You know, I got to get this guy back. Because, hey, man, if you get pushed around and people get away with it, then they're going to continue to push you around.
Amen.
And even
we'll treat you the way you
even
let
to
it.
this day, like I've told this story a million times, but in 85, we know this is going all over. I don't know, if this is cool, but I
love it. No, please keep going. It saves the context of everything.
We were battling for the NBL title in 85. It was me, Eric Roop, and Pete Longcarriage. We get down to the grands, and there's literally, like, I'm 39 points in front, and first place is 40 points. Like, just make the main, dude. And it's not even race the main and go somewhere and just pass out, right? It's super stressful.
Yeah.
Hindsight on these championships is, it's freaking stressful, man. Not a lot of fun and glamour like everyone thinks. When you see people celebrating after a championship, 90% of that energy is like, thank God it's over, man. That was a lot of stress, right?
I can imagine.
We're in our semi, and I'm in second going in the first turn, and Pete's in front. Now, I don't care if he wins the semi, and I don't care if he wins all three mains, because I just got to make the main.
That's right.
I'll never forget. I'm going in the first turn, and I slow up, and he slows up, and I look at him, and he turns, and we have eye contact, dude, as we're going in the peak of the turn, and he takes his foot and kicks my front tire, and I go over the bars. Don't make the main. I don't make the main. He wins all three mains and beats me by a point.
1 point. Yeah.
And I'm like, get home. And I'm like, I told my dad, I said, you just don't race all year long to get beat by 1 point. I almost want to say that's mathematically impossible.
Yes.
We're doing a points audit. And so we did it. And the NBL did the right thing. They fessed up, and there was a race in Vegas early in the year. And, they have on the moto sheets for the mains, they have a box for first main, second main, third main.
Yeah.
Well, Pete got first in the first main, and he got like a first in the second main, and he got a fourth in the third main, right? I think it gave him like a second overall. What happened is they counted that first box as his overall finish, which gave him 10 extra points.
Oh.
So they took the 10 points away from him. I moved to first, Roop moved to second, he moved to third. That wasn't good enough for me. So 2 months later, we're at the ABA Grands.
2 months? You waited that long?
Because the NBL finals was in September, the beginning.
Okay.
And the ABA finals was end of November.
Gotcha.
And I didn't have an opportunity to get even. But I'll tell you what, I don't forget anything, man. So we race all weekend long. There's like 10 groups of AA. We get to the mains. I'm like, all right, dude. I crashed from the first main. I wasn't up for the title. I got a 7th in the first main. I got a 7th in the second main. I'm like, this just blows. I got 14 points Well, going into the third main, Pistol Pete had 9 points and Ronnie Anderson had 9 points.
Oh boy.
They were up for the title, and mathematically nobody else could win it.
Yeah.
Well, I had lane 2 and Pete had lane 1.
Oh boy.
Okay. And I knew as we walked up, this dude's not winning the title. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And he had just signed with Haro, right?
Okay.
He had April Fools on his back. We're on the gate. As we lock in, I see Bob Haro about 6 cranks down. He's standing on the side of the track, right on the white line. Pete's in lane 1. Ronnie's in lane 8. If Pete gets 7th and Ronnie gets 8th, Pete will win the championship. If Ronnie gets 7th and Pete gets 8th, Ronnie will win the championship. They just ever beat each other.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right. I take in line into the gate and I turn my bike. You know, when you're going on the inside and you're going the first turn, you tip for me anyway. I typically tilt my bike a little to the left so I can get a little space to get into that first turn.
Yeah.
Well, this time, all I wanted to do, I just wanted to run him off the track.
Absolutely.
I turned my bike a little bit to the right and I said, all right, this is it. This dude's done. He's cooked. The gate dropped. I whole shot. I shut over. I was on the white line. I watched Bob Haro jump out of the way. I seen Pete going off into the infield, and then I turned back on and I won the main, and Ronnie got second. And, you know, Ronnie won the title. Pete didn't.
Yep.
You kicked my tire, and this is what happens.
That's right.
And to this day, the funny part is at the Grins, I didn't even have a chance to, like, I was so pissed and I wanted to go approach him, and he was coming over to me, and my old teammate, great buddy of mine, Robert Fade was like, the dude was, I don't know if you know him, but he was buff as heck, man. Robert Fade went for GT, and he was a strong, greasy musclehead, okay?
Yep.
Good
I
buddy.
remember him. Yep.
And Pete and I were getting in it, and he just stepped in and he took his hand on me and moved me out of the way, and he pulled Pete in. He says, dude, you're going to leave right now, or I'm going to bust your face open before your race starts. Says, you get the hell out of here.
I love it.
He took off. I didn't have a chance to say anything. Well, I just, 3 minutes later, we're at the Grands, and I got even. So, I don't forget, and I'm not the guy that's going to go do something malicious to someone. I'm only doing it as a way of, getting even, that's it.
And I think people have to keep into consideration that's when Pete got big as Sean Texas.
Well, I'll just tell you straight up, and I'll tell anybody, I'll never bring it up, but if the door is open, I'm going to step in and talk about it. I was racing Pete in 1983 when he was riding for LRV, okay? Or for Shadow, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The guy was fast, okay? I would go to a place called Centennial Park in Santa Ana, and I would train and ride, and he would be there.
Okay.
He was always around me, and he was always training and always wanted to beat me, and I have no problem with that because he made me better.
Yep.
But then he started blowing up, and he started taking drugs, and he took steroids. And look, listen, I'm not accusing him. I know for a fact. I know the gym he went to. It's Block's Gym in Santa Ana. I went there. I spoke to the owner. He offered me the same stuff that Pete was on. I said, I don't need that. I just want to know, am I right in my assumptions? Because how do you go and gain, anybody can gain 40 pounds in 2 months, but can they go and get ripped and have 19-inch biceps and do ads for Vision where they're like, yeah,
Exactly.
Okay. So dude, if you're going to do drugs, when people ask me, hey, who are the top 5? Who's the GOAT? This and that. I never mention his name because I'm not going to mention his name. The guy cheated. He's a cheater. Have him on your show. I always tell people this. Have him on your show. Let him defend himself.
Sure.
I hate if he doesn't like what I'm saying. You know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
I seen him at Dirty Fest. You walked right past me. I'm out there.
Yep.
I'm not hiding nothing. But dude, I got on the gate and raced Tommy Bracken's clean, and I raced him freaking hard, and I respect him, and he did it clean. And I raced Eric Roop hard, and he did it clean. And I raced Stu and a lot of guys.
Yep.
And I know they did it the right way. When you get beat by someone else who's working harder than you and they're doing it right, all you can do is just be like, more power to you. But when you get beat by a guy who I have people I know that have told me, hey, you know what? He told me he was doing steroids and he said it was just so easy and this and that. I've been on the gate where the guy's like been, hold up. We were in Irvine at the was it the Murray? I don't know. We were at the Irvine, a big race. It was like $5,000
Okay.
place. And he's like, hold up. And then he leans over and he starts throwing up, like he's throwing up. And he's got two buddies that are there to watch him. And these guys are walking around in tank tops that are cut real thin here. They're like, you know, like Arnold wannabe guys. It's like,
Yeah,
don't tell me you're taking protein powder. Give me a break. Anyways,
No, you're
it is what it is.
well, you hit one of my big nerves, and you know, clinically, if you stress the tissue and you feed it adequately, the most you can put on is 1 ounce of muscle per day.
Yeah.
You do the math, that's just under 2 pounds a month if you do it in a clinical environment. And you do the math backwards. When somebody's boasting that they put on 15 pounds of muscle in, let's say, 2 months,
Right.
I didn't say you cheated. You just incriminated yourself because you gave numbers that are mathematically, physiologically impossible. So
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you in regards to if it
I
looks
think
like it.
the better measurement, at least from my perspective, is that I know what the difference between if I'm doing everything I'm doing in my power to be as fast as I possibly can be.
Yeah.
And I'm at the first jump and someone's 3 inches ahead of me,
Mm-hmm.
dude, they're just doing it better. But if I'm at the first jump, dude's half a bike ahead of me, and on a regular basis for a period of time,
Something's up.
I'm like, yeah, this isn't computing, man. It's not
Right.
computing. But you know what? It's good. I don't even care. You know,
You know what pisses me off though, Greg, to add to your thread of thought?
Yeah.
It didn't dawn on me until after I got out of racing.
Right.
I thought it seemed a little bit odd, but I never really I'm embarrassed to say, because obviously I wasn't in school at that time. At that time, you know, I was racing 16, 17 expert when you guys were doing the ESPN and all that.
Yeah.
But I just remember afterwards going, wow, you know, you could go into other sports, motocross and other stuff, and you have one or two guys, you have particularly one guy that, let's just call a spade a spade. The first guy that does it, it takes a long time for everybody else to catch on to what they're doing. Then when everybody else catches on, the disparity is much smaller.
Right.
Well, you pretty much have all the evidence that you need. But I felt so stupid because it was like right in front of me, you know?
Well, you know, it's not stupid. It's just that when you're on, I don't want this to sound bad. When you're on the side and you see someone versus you're right next to them and you're going, you get a different window of time. I'll tell you where I can connect the dots. Okay.
Yeah.
I love motocross. All right. It's my favorite sport. Like tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're not doing anything but parking ourselves right here to watch. Okay. And like, I watch these guys and I rode motocross casually. I've never done it to a point where I've jumped anything big. I just love it, man. And, so I watch, I'm not going to mention any names. Okay.
Sure.
But I watched some of these dudes come off the track after 30 minutes and 3 laps. I don't care, dude, how fit you are. You're not taking your helmet off and having regular conversation when you're beating 190 a minute, okay? And you're already recovered in 2 minutes, and you're going to tell me you're clean? I don't think so, okay?
No.
There's a super famous trainer out there on the East who has a road bike background. And one of my favorite Supercross rider, a little guy, just won the 450 Supercross championship. All I'm saying is I can be not in the motocross world and I could point at people and tell you that dude's taking something. Because there's certain things you just can't do naturally.
Yeah.
Just aren't.
Well,
in my opinion.
If you take like what you're saying, right? When you were in your heyday with your own company and just, I'm going to use the words unbeatable, you, Stu, the Patterson brothers, Ronnie, you know, at my age group, I had to get on the gate next to Richie Anderson and he was 3 feet taller than me. Once again, my very first, the very first time I got on the gate with Richie Anderson was at Waterford Oaks. I was in lane 1 He was in lane 2. And I remember when he stood up, when they said rider's ready, and he stood up.
You're just like a giant, probably.
My goodness, that was the word I was going to use. It was like giant Richie just sat up. And of course, the seat's 32 inches above, not like today's kids where the seat's on the tire. And I just remember in the peripheral of my vision seeing that guy stand up.
Yeah.
But to your point exactly, my whole thing is, if I was racing against you and you guys are 3 bike lengths at the front, at the first jump, I get it, right? You're older than me. You've got a lot more experience. You're just flat out better than I am. But when you're racing against people as good as you are, and to your point, the illustration that you used, and you're a bike length or 3 behind at the first jump, and the work that you've put in, that disparity doesn't, it's not somebody's got a better workout program because they're doing uphill sprints versus your downhill sprints.
Right.
It's not because you did 50 gate starts a day and they did 75.
No, not at all.
It just doesn't add up. So
it doesn't add up. And so, yeah, it's one of them topics where, again, I won't go off and bring it up, but oftentimes people will mention it or people will bring people's name up. And I'm just like, look, the dude is a cheater. It's a lifelong cheater. He's a total steroid abuser. And I got no respect for him because of that. Don't tell me how great he was, because what I want to know is that somebody was great off their God-given talent and their hard pull. I don't want to know that they were great because of what they pumped into their body through a needle,
Sure.
That's just.
Well, when you bring up the big ones, the Stu and the Gary Ellises, the Mike Kings of the world, and it's funny you brought up Mr. Bill, because I always, and I hope this doesn't come across as fluffy and a little bit, weird, but what I always appreciate about yourself, you could put obviously Mikey King, Billy Griggs, everything looked perfect, right? It's one thing to be fast. I always like to say, it's not only how fast you go, it's how good you look, and your stuff from head to toe was always crisp. I'm a little bit partial here. To this day, if you guys see these jerseys that are over here, what motivates these jerseys is all based off of your GHP project.
Nice.
The way that it faded, if you can, see it right here as an illustration.
Cool. I like it.
The way you did the orange and then it went into the white. I love it. Every jersey that we've done always has a fade because of GHP products.
I like it.
But you look at Mikey King on Haro, everything was crystal clear. You mentioned Mr. Bill on Redline. It's just seared in my mind, the white and the red, and you had the number plate that was perfectly cut to the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Ellis, as big as he was, but still super clean cut, super professional. I love that.
Right.
And Stu Thompson, right? I want to come back to the you and Stu thing only just real quick.
Yeah.
When you went pro at 14 and you were riding for Redline, was Stu on Redline at that time as well?
Yeah. He was on SE Racing. So when I was 14, I was just getting done with SE. I got onto Schwinn.
Okay.
I turned pro. I turned pro in like May of 1978. I raced the NBA Escape Country Nationals, which I won my class and I won the Trophy Dash. And
okay,
I didn't make it out of my motos in pro, but I won the Trophy Dash, which helped me win the title that year. But as I got on the Redline and I was 15 and Stu was on SE Racing, I think Stu raced for SE all the way through. Well, I know for sure he raced for SE all the way through 79. And in the beginning of 80, he got on the Redline, and then we were together on Redline for a short period of time. And there's some controversy that took place with ABA. I don't want to get into that, but when you start having 2 guys that are both winning and they're on the same team, and then you go to the Grands in 79 and it's all done, and you still have more points, but they had another race and then they had another race and they had another race until they get their desired outcome and you get screwed. It's really tough to kind of like be like, well, I just couldn't, like Redline basically said, hey, we're getting to a point where it's really like, I don't even think Lynn Caston finished his sentence. And I was like, hey, check this out. I'm good. I'm done. I'm out of here. Cause you watched what happened and you're doing nothing about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I had won the NBA championship, which was every bit as prestigious as the ABA pro title.
Sure.
And I got screwed out of that. but I could say, hey, Lynn, you got the NBA and the ABA #1s here. This is awesome. And anyways, I left. That's kind of what got me going towards, riding on a GT frame with a Shimano jersey. Bobby and Sandy helped me out a lot with that. And
That's so cool.
until later in 70 and later in 81, actually, I got on a GT in October, and then that was, So
In your pro career, and I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head, how many teams did you ride for as a pro, including your own team?
I think I'm going to say, this might not be in order, but Schwinn, Redline, Mongoose, Shimano, Bobby and Cenas. When people say, well, why Bobby and Cenas? Well, Bobby and Cenas was the Shimano guy.
Gotcha.
And Bobby pulled me aside and said, hey, just put a jersey on, Shimano jersey. I'll pay all your travel and everything. We'll do clinics and I'll give you the money for it. Just go do this.
That's awesome.
It was great. And Schwinn, Mongoose, Redline, Shimano, and then I wound up on GT, and on the GT thing, which was, if I could just, a lot of times when people say, hey, would you go back and change anything? I'd be like, yeah, dude, can I sign up for that, please? I'll change something right now. And it's like, I got on the GT in 81 in like, say, August of 81. And we went to the Pontiac Silverdome. It was like the IBMX at World Championship, whatever. And I was riding for them for 2.5 years, and it was great. Richard Long was, it was Richard and Gary, but my relationship was really with Richard. We had a handshake deal, and he always went way above and beyond, and then it was like, I don't know if you want me to go into this, but I can just kind of
Love it.
how
I love it.
GHP
Love it.
is that, I wanted to buy a house, was dating my first wife and she got pregnant. So we're like, hey, we're going to start a family. We need a house. We got to get out of this apartment. And the lender, the mortgage company says, hey, we need verification of income. And I can't just say, well, this guy's really cool, man. And he's hooked me up, and doesn't work that way, right? So I needed paperwork to show a contract. Well, I told my dad, I said, hey, I got to go meet with Rich and I got to tell him, now, mind you, my dad was doing a company called Star Products at the time. He was making handlebars, frames, forks, seat posts, right?
I didn't realize that was your dad. Okay.
Yeah, that was my dad doing that. I mean,
Very
I
cool.
walk out of my bedroom, and on the way to the kitchen, I'd have to step through the living room and walk around frame sets. Be like, are you kidding me? There's like 50 frame sets all in our living room. I'm trying to get to the kitchen. And so I told my dad, listen, we're trying to buy a house. I got to go to Richard Long and I got to tell him I need a contract. What do I do? I don't know what to do, man. I'm freaking 18 years old.
Sure. Yep.
And my dad says, well, tell him you need a contract through the end of 83, just from when you started to the end of this year. And then in true Uncle Richard fashion, my dad says, well, tell him you need a contract through the end of 83. And if he won't give it to you and wants you to go longer than that, then just go tell him to F himself. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like, really?
Yeah.
And so I went down and I talked to Richard Long and I said, hey, Rich, I'm in his office, Now, look, Richard and myself, I met Richard when I was like 10 years old. Okay. When I was like 13 years old, he used to run this track in Azusa. And I got in a fight with this guy. I caught the guy in a parking lot and I just beat the tar out of him. And Richard suspended me for 30 days. All right. And, but Richard and I were tight. He always treated me fair. Right. And then when we did the handshake deal, we were at La Mirada at a national, and I'm standing there and it's me and it's Rich and Gary. And Rich is like, I want you on a GT frame. What's it going to take? I'll give you $400 a month. Just ride the frame. We'll give you $400 every month. Just ride this frame. Okay. That sounds cool. Richard's like, Gary's like, we're not paying him. We don't pay anybody. And Richard's like, we're going to pay him. And that's all there is to it. You come on Monday and see me. We'll get you a frame and I'll give you your first paycheck. Okay.
Nice.
Cool. Richard always was awesome. So I go to sit with them and I say, hey man, this is the deal. I need the blah, blah, blah. I'm buying a house. I need verification. Well, Richard says something that's pretty cool. Like any normal thinking person would have been doing backflips hearing him say this. Richard says, why don't we date it to like the beginning of like 1981, even though you started in October, and let's date it through like the end of 85. That'll show more longevity. That'll be better. And I'm like, you know, the one little guy over here saying, yeah, that's cool. And the other guy's like, well, go F yourself. And it's like, I'm like, well, I can't I can't do that. And so he leans forward and he says, listen, I love you like a son, but if you do your own thing, I know what your dad's already doing with Star Products. If you do your own thing, I'm going to put you out of business, period. But I love you like a son. You've been great. And I'd love to work with you. And I said, okay, well, thank you very much. It's been nice. I'm done. Dumbest decision I ever made. Absolutely the most ignorant decision I ever made in my BMX racing. So that's how GHP came around. And GHP came around. We did it. We started doing well. Everything was going good. People are like, well, why'd you guys stop doing it? Well, remember these words by the most powerful man that ever was in the BMX world, in the BMX industry. I love you like a son, but if you do this, I'm going to put you out of business. Dude, we got a delivery one time of handlebars. My mom was working the office. My dad was in the back. I was in the back. My mom says, hey, you got to come out here. We got a delivery of handlebars. I go out. There's a flatbed just coming from the Chromers. VDC, War Sticks and Company, used to make our stuff. There's like 200 handlebars on this rack, okay? And like the right-hand side is like this wide. And like the left-hand side is like this wide.
Oh, no.
Like maybe 4 inches, 12 inches, okay? I'm like, hey man, these are pretty good for like, you know, right-hand turns or whatever, but yeah, this ain't gonna work. Are you kidding me? I can't pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to pay for that. I'm like, you're gonna have to drive off. I am not paying for nothing. And then my mom, God love her, man, but dude, I was at like away for a weekend and my dad was doing what he did. And then all of a sudden we start getting these phone calls and it's like people are getting their forks and they're like, yo, the dropouts are welded on the backwards. They're on the wrong side. So the got your fork raised, dropouts are welded on backwards.
Oh, no.
Received an order and she was like, I'm just going to bang these out. And she stickered them up and shipped them out. And now people are just like, calling us and they're like, hey, and I'm just like, I told my dad, I said, hey, remember what Richard said? I guess he was serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my dad is like, now mind you, I'm like 20 years old at the time or 20 and a half, almost 20, maybe I'm 21.
Okay.
I've put at the time, probably $200,000 in the GHP.
Sure.
I'm done, dude. I mean, I'm done. I'm writing checks. I got to go win races. I got to have 12 different. Why do you have so many sponsors, dude? Well, because I'm not getting paid by GHP and I'm getting $200 from this guy and $100 from that and $500 from them. And, you know, and so I told my dad, I'm like, we're done, dude, we're done. He's like, well, we're going to get money out of the house. I'm like, no, you're not. You know, that one video online you could always see where they make like a meme and the guy's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I'm like, no, you're not. If you are, I don't know who's going to be your rider because I'm not going to be. You're not putting your house up. No, we're done with this. This is done. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right. So we shut it down. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then Redline contacts me. So I signed with Redline. And it's like early in 86. And I go all the way in like, I don't know when it was like mid-August. Lynn Casting calls me and says, Gregory, he always called me Gregory. Gregory, you got to come see me. I drive out to Newbury Park, sit right then on just like this. Gregory, we're out of money. I'm sorry, but we don't have any money. I'm like, okay, so we're done right now? Yep, we're done right now. Well, mind you, I've got and I'm just going off telling you like the timeline here. I've got a Royce credit card in my back pocket that has like, I don't know, $10,000 on it, right? My agreement has me going through the end of the year. I got like 4 more races to go. Plus I got to eat. So I'm like, all right, thanks a lot,
Yeah.
And I leave and I go right to the bank, which is right down the street. And I say, hey, I need to pull the money off this card. He's all right. And I'm on the signature card. So it was like, I don't know what it was. It was like $8,500 or something. Put it in my pocket, walk out, buy the rest of my tickets, race the rest of the year, finish out. And I'm at the end of 86. I'm at the end of 86 and I'm like, I'm done. I've got no sponsor. There's no money in the sport. The sport kind of was tanking, the industry, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm done. I've looked around for rides and I had a good buddy of mine and I'm like, hey, I think this is all she wrote. I got to like figure out what the hell I'm doing in life right now,
Sure.
And he's like, well, what about Rich Long? And I said, well, are you like the dumbest guy in the world? Like, you think that he's going to want to talk to me? You got to be kidding me. He says, well, you need to call him. And I said, I'm not calling him. No way. I screwed the guy. You want me to call him?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, whatever. So a couple of days later, my buddy calls me and he says, hey, you've got a meeting with Richard. And I said, what are you talking about? What did you do, dude? What'd you do? He goes, I went and met with Richard and he wants to talk to you. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he goes, just go there on whatever day and time. So I went there, went to Richard's office. I'm feeling like a shitbag. Okay. I'm walking around there with my tail between my legs, feeling like a right idiot. Right. And I get into Richard's office and he sits there and we're hanging out. He shakes my hand. He goes, hey, let's forget about the past. We just took possession of Robinson Racing and I need you to win a championship. Let's go racing. Are you in?
Nice.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, you wouldn't be sitting here if I was kidding. I went through the warehouse, got my bike, signed a contract, raced through 87, raced 88, won the NBL Pro title, went to dinner with them, celebrate, give me a big check. It's great.
Yep.
Raced all of 89. I think in 89, I got number 2 in ABA and NBL, both those years, 2 number 2s, which sucks, but it is what it is. And then, and at the end in 91, I think it was, I totally tore my left shoulder apart, at the ABA Grants. And that was kind of like that was the end of my racing. I mean, yeah, I got it repaired and got figured out and wound up on working at Answer Products and doing some pro forks and balance riding and race vet pro and did the red line gig when 94 through 98. And I raced a little bit of, but the actual, you're going racing for a living ended in November of 91. So yeah.
When would you, I appreciate you doing that whole journey and that timeline because when I look back memories in my brain associated with you, like I said, I raced you at the IBMXF Worlds in 87, you're riding for Robinson.
Yeah.
And then every one of those teams, including your own, I just so vividly remember, the blue and the white with the GT and you sitting in front of your Porsche 944 on the cover of BMXA. And
Right.
you don't have to give me specific numbers, but what team was you got paid the most between bonuses and salaries? What team was the most lucrative for you? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, it's a good question. And the money, the money in the sport come from a lot of different revenue, like streams, different avenues. Okay. I'm going to say GT without question, because when I was at GT, when I signed with GT right off the bat and, I was getting $400 to run the frame, but once I put the uniform on and it was full GT, I was getting $2,000 a month. Okay. Every month.
What year would that have been?
I was 18 years old. That was like 1981.
81. Okay.
I was with GT and Richard said, look, you can ride, have whatever sponsors you want, as long as they don't compete with our products. And so like, I was getting $2,000 a month from them. And then when I won races, I was getting and it was for both classes. See, the thing is that back then we raced pro and pro open.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys raced pro cruiser, but pro and pro open. And I would get bonuses for both classes.
Okay.
Like I was, For example, I was getting $500 a month from Bell Helmets, and when I won a race, I would get $250. If I doubled, I'd get $500. So
Okay.
I probably had 6 sponsors like that with a company called Zap Pads.
Oh yeah. Yeah. With
Yeah,
that
they were
arrow on
like,
it. Yeah.
yeah, for like they paid me like $400 a month or something for like a couple of years, and then the guy was like, "Hey, listen, this is too expensive. We want our money we pay you to be directly tied to results. So what we want to do is give you like $250 every time you win." And I'm like,
Mm,
"That's a fantastic idea. I appreciate
sure.
that."
Yeah.
So like in 1982, I won 12 ABA races, and I won like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 pro opens in the ABA. I won like 11 NBL races, and I won a bunch of pro opens. They paid me like 5 times what they were paying me before. And
That makes sense.
and then after the year, they were like, "Well, we can't really do this anymore." And but yeah, like I would say for me, for my experience in 82, from start to finish riding for GT, I don't know. I probably made 150 grand. It's not a lot of money, but
Back in that
it's
time.
not a lot of money by professional sports standards, but for like a 19-year-old kid or whatever,
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. And I'm living at home, man, and
Sure.
that was great. You know,
And you were allowed to go out and get the Amy grips and the Toyota tires.
yeah,
You were able to do all
I
that on
was
your own.
getting sponsors from all kinds of people, and people would approach me, and they're like, "What would it cost?" Blah blah. I'm like, "Look, $250 a month, and $300 every time I win either class." "Okay, cool. Boom, sign this, done."
Yeah.
I ran Ambrosia rim sets. I ran an ultra. What is it? An Ultramax. Guy named Don Parscaro out of Tulsa, Tucson, Arizona. He was paying me to run like a seat post and some rims, not the wheels, just the rims.
Just the rim. Yeah.
Tioga tires and JT and Bell helmets and Zap pads and Grab On. Yeah, just all these.
Well, I remember looking at BMX action, and I'm kind of a numbers geek, and I would always, right. So now Greg's on the cover, and Greg's on the inside back cover, and he's in 7 ads inside, and then he's got 4 race photos because they covered, at that time they'd cover an ABA race, an NBL race, and so now it's like, okay, he's on the cover, he's on the back inside cover. They've got 4 photos of him racing. There's 7 sponsors in it, and I'm like,
Well,
and
what also was cool is that a lot of my sponsors at that time would be like, "Hey, along with your winnings bonuses, we're going to give you photo contingencies. So if you got a cover, you got $500. If you got an inside cover, you got X amount. If you got a quarter page was this much, a half page was that much." So man, half the time I'd get home from a race and I'd be like, "All right, let me get I got to fill this out and send it to this company." And I mean, I'm getting pieces of, this is 1982. There is no, let me just use this thing, take a photo. That's like, I got to fill this out. I got to get a stamp, lick the envelope, send that in, and then checks would
wait 3 weeks.
Yeah. And if I just kept winning, then checks kept showing up, and that's just what I did. So,
And you bring up something that's really important, particularly at the era that you were dominating in. Everything was in print, right? And like you mentioned, motocross, we lived for Cycle News, and it was only a week old, and that was phenomenal because we didn't have to wait 4 weeks for motocross action and dirt bike and all of that.
right.
What was it like? And you even articulated it yourself. Here you are, you're at the races, and people were approaching you almost. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you were a hot commodity. People wanted to have their logo on you, and you riding their stuff. When did you start to sense, okay, I'm not getting the phone calls like I used to get? Like the whole Robinson, I didn't realize from somebody like myself as a spectator, we just figured you left Redline because you got a better offer with Robinson, not, oh, guess what? We have no money. You're SOL.
Right.
When did you start to notice the phone calls were getting a little bit more bigger gap of time in between the phones ringing?
Typically, like, I want to say during the GHP days, like
Sure.
when I was on GT. So this is my opinion. I think that I'm right because it's not just about me, but it's the industry and how healthy it was at the time.
Okay.
So it wasn't just about how hot a rider was at the time. It was more like, how good is he and how healthy is the industry? So in the early 80s, the industry was booming. Like,
Yeah.
BMX was growing massively. So you'd get all kinds of people getting a hold of you. And then like when we were done with GHP, at that time, it was right when the bigger companies were all going overseas to get their stuff made.
Okay.
A lot of the smaller companies were going belly up, or they didn't have the money anymore. A lot of okay, this is a great example. So GT used to make frames, forks, bars, and seat posts, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the time I finished riding for them, after the first run with, 2.5, 3 years, whatever, they were making all kinds of stuff. They were making, you know, seats and tires and all kinds of parts they were making, which meant you could not get the same amount of co-sponsors.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to be paying you more money because they made that, right? So by the time I was done with GHP and trying to look for a ride, now it's like, okay, I'm looking for a ride. How many healthy companies are there? Well, Redline just ran out of money. They don't have no money. GHP's out of business because there's no money. You got a company like Patterson Racing Products. Well, they got two of the best guys in there, and they're not looking for a rider, and they're not making a whole lot of money either. They did okay, but
Yeah.
they were no different than GHP.
Sure.
There wasn't a lot of, yeah. So when you look at the sport from like the first part of the 80s to 85 was really good. Then from 86 to 90, it started to taper down. So it just got slower. When I had my shoulder injured, it wasn't just injured. What happened is I went over the bars, and it's my left hand, but I'm going to use my right hand. It's easier because I can still use it and it's good, but I don't have the same, as
Sure.
I was at full speed over the first jump, went over the bars. My armpit was on the ground, and my arm was on the ground, and my whole body kept going. So like I had my ear to my here, and it was like a tree branch breaking. What I did is I tore 3/4 of an inch of the ligament right here off the bone. I had to go drill 3 holes and use like drywall anchors and
Yep.
put it back in there. So I was like, before I decided to get surgery, I was, well, this is how messed up it was. This happened in November, and my contract was up 30 days later.
Oh man.
Unbelievable time.
Yeah.
I was like, go to open a slider door, and I'm just like, okay, let me just go to open it. And I went like a little bit of pressure, and my shoulder rolled a little bit, and I let go, and it rolled back. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't good. So I tried to race a few races, and it just wasn't panning out. So I got it worked on. Then Robinson said, look, we're going to send you a contract for whatever it was, 92 or something, I guess, maybe. We're going to give you $1,000 a month. And if you get first at a national, we'll give you $2,000. And I'm like, you could offer me like $100,000 to win. I can't do anything right now.
Sure.
So they paid me $1,000 a month for the year, and I was done.
Yeah.
If I was healthy, there wasn't a lot of companies to ride for.
Mm-hmm.
The industry was completely changed once everyone started going overseas. There wasn't really big rides. I think guys like in the 87, 88, 89, they weren't getting paid like the guys were getting paid in the early 82, 83, or 45 years.
Okay.
And then companies, like a good example, would come in and they want to set the world on fire, like Huffy, and they grab Stu and Ellis and King, and then they go for like 2 years, and they go, they're done, they're out, they pull the plug, they're gone. Well, that sends the message to anybody in the world that, hey, there's no money in this stuff. There's no money in this.
Exactly. Yep.
They're gone. So really,
It's a question.
yeah.
Go ahead. Excuse me, Greg. I'm sorry.
No, it's it. It's good. That's the deal.
You just mentioned, Huffy being in their powerhouse days, when they, I think of Murray now later with Shelby and Todd, and, you had King and Ellis and Stu.
Right.
Don't have to mention any names, but obviously you're very plugged in with the best of the best of the best. Who was not who, what was the greatest amount of money you heard somebody make or was getting paid in BMX? Because there's a reference point is why I'm asking, if you don't mind.
I gotta honestly tell you that I'm not positive, because nobody, the guys that I would hang with, like Stu or Ellis, very tight-lipped about it.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. This is a good example. So in 90, this is past my racing. In 98, I had just finished 4 years with Redline.
Okay.
What happened is Redline offered me a job. Chuck Hooper, he was my boss. He was the president of Seattle Bike Supply, which owned Redline.
Yep.
Contact him. This is a guy that was like, hey, I need you to go, like, say a week before Christmas one year. He's like, I need you to drive to Carson. It's like 40 minutes from me. They're up in Seattle. And
Okay.
I need you to take these 2 bikes to a dealer. It's like a Christmas present. So, okay, I'll do that. This is to tell you who Chuck Hooper is. So I go to the warehouse and I grab these 2 bikes. There's an envelope. The manager of the warehouse says, hey, these are your bikes, man. And that's your envelope. Chuck wants you to have this. Don't look at the envelope until you get into your car. This is a week before Christmas in like 98 or something. Or 97. So I get in there and I open a thing and there's a letter and he says, hey, I just want to thank you. Like, I mean, this is emotional because I love Chuck Hooper and he was like a second father to me and he taught me so much and he was the most humble guy in the world. And he was a great boss that I had from 94 through 98. And anyways, he gave me a nice letter. I want to thank you and Liz for the sacrifice and all the hard work and all this stuff. And it was a check for $4,000, which was my monthly salary. You know, here's $4,000. Here's these 2 bikes. Go ride these on the beach and have fun. And, you know, so that was the Redline gig. And at the end of that, he couldn't justify paying me what he was paying me to do outside promotions and team management anymore. So he called me and he says, listen, I can't justify this anymore, but I want you to come in and be our BMX guy. I want you to run the BMX program, be the product manager, the team manager, the whole deal. And I'm like, so what you're saying is I got to move to Seattle? He's like, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. And I said, well, I love you, man. And, but I have too much roots here. I can't move here, even if I wanted to.
Sure.
And I appreciate it. So I had to go. And what happened was, is leading into your deal, what happened was I left. And as I left, John Purse, who I had brought in, who'd been doing well, negotiating, hey, I don't want bonuses anymore. Just give me $8,000 a month and all my expenses and small bonuses. But
Sure.
so I want to say, if he was getting $8,000 a month and some smaller manageable bonuses, plus he had other sponsors, he probably he was probably one of the guys that made the top of the money. And also, you know, I don't know what that number is, 8 times 12, whichever, plus a few extra. That was probably one of the higher paid guys. Christophe Lebec got paid really good when he went to Specialized, but I don't know how much that was.
Yes.
Stu, when they did the Huffy gig, apparently got a very good pay because he got a percentage of sales on the Stu model, right?
Okay.
But I don't know what those numbers were, you know? Well, I know we had nobody's ever raced BMX professionally and been able to go golfing after they're done with their career and just hang out and not have to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the reason why I appreciate you going through that is because you were on the forefront yourself, Stu Patterson. You guys were the ones that drove the machine, the marketing machine,
Right.
like we were talking about, which made magazines like BMXA so successful.
Right.
And I'm not so much focusing on the dollar amount as much as when somebody says to me, and this makes my skin crawl, Greg, is one's like, well, it's such a niche sport, you know, there's no money to be made. And I'm like, really? The guys and the women that are driving the machine aren't making the money, but isn't it ironic that in a niche sport, the only people that are making money are the governing bodies and the organizers?
Right.
That's where I step back and I just have to smile and go, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this where everybody, and again, I am not into redistribution of wealth. I think
right.
I love capitalism. I'm
Sure.
not into redistribution of wealth, but I am into, like this gentleman respects what you've done for his brand. He matches your salary with a Christmas bonus, kind of has a little bit of fun, says, hey, I need you to pick this up. Like you say, enough to bring you to tears because it means that much.
Yeah, I don't. You guys, here's a lot of that in this.
No, goodness sake, no. Well, and I think again, we don't need to go down a political soapbox, but when the marketing machine controls the narrative and all you ever hear is, well, we can't be big because it's a niche sport.
Right.
I call utter bullshit.
It's bullshit. I was just speak candidly for a second, because people ask me, how come BMX isn't like it was? And I just say, and then people are quick to say, well, there's electronics now and there's this. And I'm like, yeah, that's a cool story, but that's not why. Okay.
Yep.
It has a little bit to do with it. But here's the deal. Bob Osborne decided to be done with the magazine. It was gone. Bikes started getting produced in Japan, Taiwan, China. That means smaller bike companies over here are done, because they're not going to be competing with those prices.
Sure.
Now we're sitting here in 2025, and I don't have a BMX track within 40 miles of me. Okay. And I live 15 miles from where the Valley Youth Center in San Fernando Valley, where BMX was massive. There's nothing. There's no track in Orange County where the Orange Y was, where
Really?
Orange Y ran for like how many years?
Yeah.
It was the best in terms of ridership. It was the number one track for years and years.
You don't have anything there.
They have nothing. So I say, hey, the sport, the steering wheel of BMX is in the wrong hands. It's in the hands of guys that are small thinkers. And again, and I could say this now, this is great, because I don't have to go to a national next week, and I don't have to worry about Shannon Gillette saying, well, you got to park down the street at the Walmart because you said some things we don't really like. So yeah, these are not my opinions. I lived that. I went to nationals and I got put way out in the parking lot.
Yep.
And I've experienced this. So we have small-minded people. They don't think about the grassroots of the sport. They want to drive their 18-wheelered ATM machine up, and they charging $80 an entry fee, and they're having nationals on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They're milking the cow that is almost out of milk. Okay. Their business model doesn't allow for growth. It allows for turnover. They have a box which has a front door and a back door, and people come in, both doors are wide open. People come in and people leave. There's no retention. People race for 8, 9 months, 12 months, and they're out.
Yeah.
I'm not being negative. I'm not. I'm just being a realist.
You're not at all, Greg.
BMX. If you and I won the lottery and we had $50 million, you could take 10 million and sock it away, and I could take 10 million and sock it away. We're going to give away in taxes. And we just said, hey, you know what? Let's match 5 each. We're going to put 10 million in and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We could do a better job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. How are you going to get kids into BMX when there's no local track for them to ride on?
Yeah.
How are you going to promote? Like I said to people that are not in the sport would come up to me in 2008 and they would say, man, BMX has made it. It's in the Olympics. I'm like, yeah, that's the death of the sport. What do you mean? Well, what I mean is that when you and your father and your grandfather would decide you wanted to go out and play baseball, you went out onto a field that had a first, second, third, home plate, 2 dugouts. You want to play basketball, you had a court. It was all the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's been very little change.
Right.
Now you're going to ask little Bobby to watch the Olympics with his mom and dad. You got these dudes coming off of like a 50 or 80-foot hill on asphalt. Okay. I don't know about you, but I'm going to watch that and I'm going to say, yeah, my kid's not going to ride on that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So for me, it killed the sport. And I think if you do the research, you'll find that as the Olympics hit, the sport started to die off in several countries. It got much smaller. So the go-to is, well, BMX, it's just, there's a lot of electronics and there's a lot of things in life. Kids aren't riding bikes anymore. Well, kids aren't riding bikes anymore because there's nowhere to ride it. If I go out and buy a nice BMX bike for my grandkid, I got 6 of them now. if I go out and buy one for him and say, hey, here you go, let's go racing. Do I expect my son to have to drive 50, 60 miles to take him to a track? First of all, in Southern California, good luck driving 50 miles to go hit up a track on Wednesday night. It's going to take you 2.5 hours to get there. Okay.
Yep.
There's no tracks to ride. There's nobody riding tracks. There's nowhere to go. So how do you grow the sport if all you do is run nationals?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Well, like you say, the only people making money are the same people making money, and it's the same career. And this is where I so appreciate your insight, and especially for the sake of the listeners, you've been the one that people made money on the backs of, and you're okay with that. You realize you sold magazines, you're okay with that. But then when you get into, you're now somebody who has a company that you're trying to grow your company through a sport that if everybody works together, everybody can make money because a rising tide raises all ships.
That's right.
That's why I love to have your opinion on it because, and if you're okay with it, Greg, I'd like to do a second show with you if you have time, because
Absolutely.
what you've done here today for the sake of the listeners, like I learned so much about, and I go back to the example I used earlier. I still go back to the ESPN and you whipping that helmet off and you never stopped after the finish line. You just kept going. Now I get that. I can see that in my brain and I see,
That was the first of 3 mains.
yes,
So it's
but that fire in the belly,
You
the
can't-
kid that told the guys to get off my street, this is not your street. That's who I now see riding down there. That's
know,
badass.
one of my favorite athletes of all time, Kobe Bryant. Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember watching during the finals, and I believe they'd won game 3, and they won like 3 straight.
Yeah.
And he's in the press conference and he's all serious. He's looking pissed off. They just won. And
Yeah.
and one of the guys says, Kobe, so I just want to ask, why don't you look happy? How come you look mad? How come you look focused? You're intense. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Kobe says, we ain't done yet. We're not done yet. We haven't won anything. The first team that wins 4 teams is the champion. Nobody's done that yet. We're not done. And so, you know, you finish winning the first main and you got 2 more to go. And if your mindset is correct, you're not celebrating much, you know,
Yeah.
like I don't want to go too long real quickly, but that memory you have, I'm glad that what I'm going to say doesn't overshadow it, but that day really sucked because I won the first 2 mains and in the 3rd main. And while I was winning the first 2 mains, Eddie King got a 2nd and a 3rd. And I love Eddie. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
But in the 3rd main, you know, I got 2 points. He's got 5. And I'm going down the last straight and I'm in 5th sitting on my seat and he's in front. I could have pedaled more, you know, like I know in one of the questions you asked on here was like, hey, what was your best win? Whatever your dude.
Yeah.
3 mains at the ESPN finals, you know, in '83. I go into the race and I got to get 7th or better to win the championship. After I got 3rd in the first main.
Yeah.
2 mains left. Got 2nd in the 2nd main. Sewed up the championship. I didn't realize how it was a 7-race series, and it did not hit me until after the 2nd main when my buddy came up to me and he says, hey, dude, and I knew it already, but he says, you won the title. You're the champ. You're the champ. You could just leave now. And I'm like, man, I'm so tired, dude. I'm so exhausted right now. I could pass out, dude. I'm done. And I was literally done, dude. I had no energy. And I had a guy who was training me. This guy's name was Jeff Spencer. This dude was amazing. He was the trainer of David Bailey.
Yeah.
Jeff
Everybody knows him with Factory Honda. Yep.
Dude was awesome.
Yeah.
And he was at that race and he pulled me aside and he says, hey, what are you doing? Like he took me in between motos and mains and took me into the bathroom stall, had me pull my pants down, put the aloe vera heat, like he gave my legs massage. Dude, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Going back fresh every time. And then after that championship was over, he was like, hey, you know, we're not done, dude. We're not done yet. I don't know if that's exact words, but pretty much it was. He's like, I want you right now to go walk, and I don't want you to stop walking until it's time to race. I'm going to hold your bike, and there's staging area. This was awesome, man. The staging area where everybody's queuing up, and there was a circular deal, and he says, just walk this, just walk it. Well, I'm walking it, and I'm just thinking, I'm done, dude. By the way, bro, I don't know this, but my first wife had went to the hospital 6 hours earlier while I'm walking, about 6 hours earlier, went to the hospital to give birth to my first son. Okay.
Oh,
I didn't know this.
yeah.
Nobody told me. And I knew, but she stayed home because her due date was like 2 weeks later. Okay. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to be going and giving birth. I'm like, you need to stay home. I'm going to do this. I'll see you tonight. Well, I don't want to race no more, dude. I'm done. Let's give me the car that's in the field. Let me just leave. Well, if we give me the second or third overall, I can give a shit. And Joe was like, you got work to do. I want you to walk. So I'm walking. All right. And as I'm walking about my third lap, and I'm walking past Stu and Dennis Dane, who Dennis Dane used to race in the early days. And was like family to me.
Okay.
They're talking. And I'm walking literally within 2 feet of them. And Stu won the first two mains, and first place was $7,000 and second place was 3,500. Okay. That's a big gap. And
That's a huge gap. Yeah.
as I'm passing him, Dennis says, what are you going to do with the money? And Stu's like, I'm going to buy that new Honda, blah, 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 motorcycle, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm walking by him, and all of a sudden I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I'm like, I want to race now, you know? And
That's
I bought up on the gate, and I got the whole shot, and I won, and he got fifth. It was like just like that deal with Eddie and I, except I was on the good end. I got a 3-2-1, and he got a 1-1-5. So I won the race, and I won the car and the title and all that. That was like the
And
best.
you went home to a new baby.
I went straight. I got in the car, like I'm standing there doing an interview with Rennie, and my buddy, my team manager, comes up as he's interviewing me because they didn't let me go away. Rennie grabbed me, and then we were talking, and he's like, "Give me the envelope." And my buddy comes up and he says, "Hey, your wife's been at the hospital for 6 hours, dude. She's gonna give birth, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I got in the car. I drove straight to Orange County, which is usually about an hour drive from where we were. I made there in like 35 minutes. I was standing in the delivery room in my GHP outfit. And at like 4:39 in the morning, I watched him be born, and it was unbelievable. It was amazing. And our team won the team trophy at that race as well. We had Jason Donnell, Charlie Williams, we had Robb Taft, Corey Bailey.
Yep.
Matt Hayden. We had good riders, man. And we won.
When you
guys,
when-
sorry, Audrey, but that's just like,
no,
everything's connected, right? Like everything's
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Everything that you've shared with us today is got so much interwoven both before, during, and after as to what brings us here today. And that's why this podcast is called the next chapter. So Greg, if you're okay with it, I would definitely love to have you come back.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much meat on the bone here.
Can I throw something in?
Great. Yes, please. Yes.
I've done a lot of interviews and stuff and podcasts and things, but like right now when I'm doing this, it's like very therapeutic. Okay. Because we give up everything to do BMX. That means I've never been to a high school reunion. I don't have any friends from high school, just one.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up everything to do BMX. And then years later, it's just, you don't get the opportunity to really, like the way you formatted this and the way this is going, I'm able to relive a lot of these moments. It's not just by hanging out with a buddy and talking about that one weekend. It's more like everything we're talking about is like able to relive it, take a minute to have it's just massive gratitude and massive appreciation for the sport, the people, the industry, everyone, because without one of those, none of it works. So it's like, it's a magical thing to be able to walk down this avenue right now with you and to revisit these things, because it's really, truly magical. It's a way, it's a therapeutic sharing with people. It's not always about being the biggest, strongest, macho, fastest guy. You know, there's like human, you know, there's always a saying, it's like, yo, if he bleeds, you can kill it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you can do anything if you want to. Do you want to do it or not? Do you want to bitch about it and complain, or do you want to do it? Anything's possible. Well, you went out and do some things that you didn't think you could do, and you handled it, and you're able to talk about it years later. It's very, very therapeutic. It's really cool. And I appreciate you having me here to do this. It's cool.
Thank you so much for the kind words. It's exactly what the vision and the mission of this whole podcast is. And I can tell you, Greg, that the listeners are going to love it, because you are and still are their hero. And the fact that you're willing to be so vulnerable, I want to get a little bit more into some of the things that made you who you are. And I know that based on the feedback that I've gotten from previous shows, we've had people that said, look, dude, I was about ready to pull the trigger. No pun intended. I was ready to leave the earth. I was done. I had lost all hope. And you talked to so-and-so, and I didn't realize, I only saw him on the cover of the magazines. I didn't know it's such dark days. And that makes the show worthwhile right there.
You know what? Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to go longer than you need to go here, but
No worries.
I was dealing with this situation where in 79 and 80, the ABA completely took advantage of me and screwed me over. Well, I want to get into that, but
Sure.
I approached Mike Miranda about doing a podcast. I needed to get off my chest, because just like you and anybody else, you go to the bathroom, you don't have the newspaper, you got your phone, you're reading it, you're sitting in your chair, you're reading it. And I opened up Facebook, and you see, you know, Brent, or you see Stu. I'm not here to dump on anybody's name, but it brings it back time and time again, man. It's like, either I got to get off social media or I got to dump this out there. Well, I did the podcast with them, and I felt like 3/4 of the way through it, I had goosebumps. I felt like it was purged. I felt like this is not going to affect me anymore. It's not a poison in my system anymore. And it's not. 3 or 4 weeks after the podcast, Miranda calls me up and he says, "Hey man, I want you to know something." I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "I got a phone call from a guy, and I'm not going to mention his name. I'm going to keep it in confidence, but he lives up in the Northwest." And he says, "This guy was not in a good way. Okay. He was considering what it would be like to just not be here anymore."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he listened to the podcast, and he learned and realized it's okay to talk about what he was dealing with. And he's since talked about it, and he doesn't feel that way anymore. And he goes, "I just wanted you to know that." And like, for me, that's who gives a shit about what race you won? Who cares? It's like, this is what matters, is for people to know that anything's possible. It's life. You get shit on in life. You get treated like crap. You know, you're human.
Yeah.
You got to talk to people. You got to let things out. Don't let them fester. And that was super cool, man. So
Amen to that. And I would like to add one thing for the sake of the listeners. And what is so cool about what you just said, though, Greg, is at the end of the day, when you put all these elements together, right? The fact that people, I'm finding, and we can talk more about this in the next show.
yeah,
The more I have these shows and I get a chance, I consider it a privilege to even have you in my cell phone now. Seriously. It means the world to me. But what I'm starting to find is Hollywood Mike, Eric Carter, yourself, Big E, TC, all these guys, the good people out
Yeah.
of the sport, we have all found each other.
Yeah.
And we've been burnt by people. Like, I found out the hard way, people who accused, I was in a business. I'm not even going to say what type of business, because people know who it was. The person was telling me that I was the one not working hard enough. So I worked harder to try to prove my point.
Yeah.
This person told me I was the one stealing from the company, only to find out that he was the one stealing.
That's
right. Well, my point, Greg, and what you're saying is, We've all been dumped on. We've all been through it.
Absolutely.
But the ones that have come through a diamond instead of a pile of rubble,
Yeah.
those are the ones that end up at the bike festivals, and those are the ones that you get to go and have a nice cup of coffee or an adult beverage with.
Absolutely.
The good has persevered, and the ones that raped and pillaged and unfortunately abused the situation, where are they now? They're
exactly.
Those are
the people that are just busy, take, they give nothing,
and they've got to live with that. And
Right.
then you've got like I said, not to be redundant, you got Hollywood, you've got Eric, you've got yourself, you've got the good people, the Gary Ellises, the Stews of the world, the Pattersons of the world, that are like, man, the salt of the earth people that I would choose to hang out with, regardless of the fact that you were such a bad dude on a bike. You're still a human. And I want to say thank you, Greg, for the sake of the listeners, because I know that you're going to inspire a lot. And I know for sure that they're going to want to see the second half. So
I appreciate it, man.
we'll continue to do what we've done.
It's an honor to be here. And, whenever you're ready to roll, let me know and we'll do it. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe if some of the people that listen to it have further questions, and they can let you know in the comments. And
absolutely.
But yeah, man,
I appreciate it, Greg.
In the next one, we can maybe touch on how long it took me to win my first race and who was beating me on a weekly basis for about 8 months.
I would love
get
that.
into that.
I know. Absolutely. And what I love about it is the psychological, the stuff nobody knows, the dark nights, the early mornings.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, Greg. And again, I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you guys that have stuck with us. Obviously, Greg's a legend. I appreciate him being as vulnerable and open as he's been. If you guys have any questions, continue to DM me, and we will see you in a month. Be safe.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
Meet the Guest. Next chapter. Part of the Coach Robb Podcast Network.